Hi everyone, this is Stories and Prayers. We are continuing. Today is May 20. So this is where we left off. God's love. Where would the soup be without any dish? What would the sea be without any fish? What would a book be without any words? And what would the sky be without any birds? Why use a dove coat? I don't know, without any dove. And where would we all be without God's love? Little Fir Tree. Mr. Brown grew fir trees. He planted a whole forest of them in rows and hoped they would grow tall enough to be ready for Christmas. I can sell them to the shops, he said to himself, and they will be decorated and covered with tinsel. The trees heard him because trees are good at listening. We're going into the great town to be decorated, they whispered, and with pride they spread their branches wider than ever. In the corner of the field, a tiny tree stood. It was so crowded by the other trees it had no room to grow any taller. "You are squeezing me," it cried in a tiny voice. "Leave me a little space to grow in." But the tall trees paid no attention. They just went on growing taller. Soon it was winter, hard and cold. The freezing wind blew through the forest. One day, Mr. Brown arrived in a truck. He cut down the tall trees and he drove off with them into town. "We're going to be decorated," they whispered excitedly. As they went, "It's nearly Christmas." At last the whole field was almost empty. There was nothing left except the tiny tree in the corner. But Mr. Brown didn't bother to take a little tree with him. And it's so small, no one will want to decorate it, he thought. That night, the moon shone and there was frost on the ground. Soon the tiny tree looked as though it stood in a pool of silver. Its needles were white too. "I shall cover you with jewelry," said the frost. "I shall light you like a star," said the moon. "You are queen of the forest," whispered the snow as it fell. Soon the little tree looked as though it was covered with the most beautiful Christmas decorations. It stretched its branches out and rustled with joy. A winter prayer. The frost twinkles like tiny jewels on a cold and moonlit night. Upon the leaves of every tree you can see it shining bright. A holy light shone long ago, like the brightest, precious gem. It shone down on the baby Jesus born in Bethlehem. So, Lord, I pray beside my bed, watch over me tonight. Keep me safe and free from harm and always in your sight. Yes, please keep me so safe and away from harm and always in your sight. Thank you. Hug. I like giving hugs. Hugs are my favorite thing, 'cause I'm a teddy bear and stuffed furry animal. The statue. Once there was a man who was so proud of himself that he decided to make a statue of himself. He thought he would put it on a tall pillar in the town so everybody could see. He set to work looking at himself in the mirror. A good statue would be too expensive, he thought. I will make it out of cardboard and cover it with gold paint. No one will ever notice. So that is what he did. When the statue was finished, he hired a crane and placed it on the top of a pillar. There it shone as if it were real gold. Everybody admired it. But one night there was a great storm. The rain fell, the strong winds blew, and the statue toppled from the pillar and fell into a puddle. By morning, the painted cardboard statue had become soft and messy. A street cleaner came along with his broom and cleared it away. Why, the statue wasn't made of real gold at all, cried a little boy who had been watching. What a silly fellow he must have been to think he was so important. And the people very soon forgot about the man who made his own statue. But the street cleaner was rewarded for keeping the streets tidy. He was given a winter overcoat and a fine new broom. The greatest. Some men are rich and famous. Some men are strong and tall. But little Jesus was the greatest man of all. Let's keep on moving like a choo-choo train, moving like a choo-choo train. It's called Moving Day. Mr. Green was moving. He packed his belongings into a van. Last of all, he put in the piano. It was big and heavy. All the neighbors helped him. As Mr. Green was about to drive away, he suddenly remembered something. "Why, I've forgotten to take my chickens," he cried. "I know I can put the chickens inside the piano." He went into the garden and picked up his chickens one by one There was just enough space for them inside the piano. So Mr. Green left the lid open so that the chickens would be comfortable. He drove to his new house and unpacked his van. First, he picked up the chickens and carried them to their new pen. When he moved the piano, he heard a strange noise. Inside was a newly laid egg. Mr. Green ate the egg with his tea. Okay. Was thinking it was the chickers. I'm glad I put the piano in the last, and I'm very glad I didn't forget my chickens, he said happily. God's family. Some live here and some live there, in the water, earth, and air. Cuckoo, robin, chicken, dove, help me to treat all things with love. With love we are one family, as Jesus taught us all to be. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, bark. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, bark, bark. Teddy goes shopping. John has 3 brothers. He is the youngest of his family. The other boys go off to school, but John stays by himself with his mom. There are many activities in the big city where John lives. Sometimes he goes for a ride in a car. Sometimes he takes a train ride. Well, now and again he goes shopping. When he goes to the stores, he always takes his Teddy with him. In the elevators of the store, in the stores, there are elevators and stairs and escalators. John likes the escalators the best. Elevators, stairs, and escalators. John likes the escalators. He goes up, he goes down, he goes up again. Oh, look, John has dropped his Teddy over the rail. Teddy is going down all by himself, and John is going up. So, we shall have to go down again, said his mom. We'll pick Teddy up when he gets to the bottom. So they did. Up and down, down and up they went. John tightly held onto his Teddy until they got up the stairs. That evening, when his big brothers came home from school, John told them all about Teddy's adventure. Do the escalators go on working all night? Asked John. I expect they stop when the store is closed, answered Mom. Do I stop when I am asleep? Said John. No, said Mom, but your body slows down and gets some rest as it prepares for the next day. So John went up to bed. He took his Teddy to bed, too, because Teddy had done a lot of traveling that day. Watch over me. God bless me when I'm awake and bold and brisk and bright. God watch over me and keep me safely through the night. And keep Teddy safe. Mrs. Pig. Lots of People made fun of Mrs. Pig. "Look how clumsy she is," they said to each other. "Her eyes are so small and her nose is so big." Mrs. Pig took no notice, as she shouldn't. Her eyes are so... Okay. I don't see how her eyes are small. This doesn't make sense. Well, she had 15 piglets to look after. As they grew older, she took them around the field. "There goes Mrs. Pig," scoffed the people walking along the farm path. "What a silly tail she has." They walked off laughing, but they were so busy making fun of Mrs. Pig that they forgot to look at the sky. A bank of black clouds was growing bigger and bigger. Soon the clouds burst. They would burst and the rain would pour down. Mrs. Pig snuffled and glanced up. "There's a storm coming, children. Follow me. We'll find shelter in the barn until it is over." Mrs. Pig and her family trotted into the barn and made themselves comfortable in some fresh, dry hay. In a moment, the rain fell heavily. There was thunder and flashes of lightning, too. All afternoon, the storm continued, and then the sky cleared. It was as blue as a robin's egg. "Now we can go out again," grunted Mrs. Pig. The piglets made their way happily over the fields because they had been sheltered from the storm, and they were pink and clean, not muddy. The people walking had not been so smart. When they reached home, they were all wet and covered with mud. Who are the pigs now? Mrs. Pig was not so silly after all. Her little piglets thought that she was very clever. "Go, Mrs. Pig. Go, Mrs. Pig." P-I-G. Go, Mrs. Pig. P-I-G. Go, Mrs. Pig. G-O-P-I-G. Go, pig. G-O-P-I-G. Go, pig. God bless. Bless the horse and cow and goat. Bless the sheep in her woolly coat. Bless the pig by the acorn tree. God bless everything, and God bless me. I want a pet pig. Oink, oink. Well, that's the last of this book. Thank you guys very much. My page is facebook.com/yosallplay, YOSALLPLAY. It says, a delightful collection of stories and prayers for every occasion. Your child will learn to love bedtime and prayer time with this volume, especially compiled for young children and their parents. to enjoy together. Even if you don't say the prayers all the time, it is good to know about them and keep them in mind. They might come in handy here and there. I'm not saying you have to, change your religion or whatever, but there's principles that are very nice in these stories and prayers about nature and being nice to people, etc. So yeah, I'll see you guys later, alligators. Bye. Doodly doodle. Poodles. Oodles of poodles. Bye.